Greetings, or what is up, and a very warm welcome to the channel. The sun is hiding and the Magpie is casting. Coming to you guys right now with a live 1 versus 1 battle featuring spawning in the north. It is going to be the Overcommand West pieces of PanzerGrenadierAngreifen, who has gone ahead and actually picks a commander immediately, and it's going to be Fortifications Doctrine. So those are the abilities that he is going to have afforded to him here by his commander choice. And spawning in the south here, playing as the Soviet pieces, it is going to be Brosras, who I believe I actually have cast before. Can't particularly remember a lot about his playstyle, his character, his skills, abilities, or anything like that. But hopefully he's going to be a pretty high caliber player. He is being matched up against PanzerGrenadierAngreifen, who we know is a stalwart of the game. And I would say definitely one of those players, PanzerGrenadierAngreifen. He's featured on the channel a lot of times, and we're quite, I feel like I'm quite au fait with his abilities and his skills, and I would say he is just a whisker out of being a top tier player. He's very solid, a great player, much prefers to play as Axis from what I've seen, almost always repping the Axis out on the ladder, and but I don't know, he's somehow just lacking that sort of spice or that little shine or that kind of aura of god tierness or god tier ability that you kind of associate with the very best players in any RTS. So but he does stick at it, and he is persistent, and he is, as you can see, still playing good old Company of Heroes 2. And that's the way to get to the top. So as long as he keeps doing that, he will continue to improve. So yeah, very much looking forward to seeing exactly what level he's at, exactly what form he's in this game. And as these two players kind of, you know, get their very early game underway here, you can see Angreifen got these, actually these Volks Grenadiers awkwardly cornered, and they're going to actually, yeah, they'll be forced back. A little bit of a setback there for Angreifen. But yeah, as these two players get underway in this game, I'll just take a moment right here to, I don't know, talk about the fact, I guess, or explain my absence, because I haven't really been casting for like a month. So, I don't know, my philosophy in life, or one of the sort of little things I've realized about life that I pretty much live by, is when you're passionate about something, you should do it. And another thing I've noticed about myself is, like, my passion for things is like a sine wave. Sometimes I'm really into stuff, other times not so much. And I don't know, just recently I just haven't been feeling the casting, haven't been feeling Company of Heroes 2 so much. So I've been doing other stuff. It's also been summer here in England, and you know, when it's sunny in England, you really do have to make the most of it, because otherwise you forget what the sun actually looks like. England can have some pretty terrible weather for like 9 months of the year. So you know, when it's beautiful weather, when the sun is shining, you've got to get out there really. So yeah, I've been enjoying myself, partying out, hanging out with friends, been focusing on some other things that are very dear to me as well. So yeah, I guess that's where I've been. But for whatever reason, definitely felt like casting today, and that is what I will be doing. Actually, you know what? It's also worth mentioning, there's been a couple of other, like, kind of competitors in my eyes for games that I'd like to sort of cast and focus on. But the most recent and important one is definitely Steel Division, Normandy 44. What a great game that has been. Pretty much all of my PC time recently has been spent on that game. It's just really, really cool. It actually has a lot of elements about what makes Company of Heroes 2 so great in it, but it also, you know, it's a completely different game. It's very different to Company of Heroes 2. Wow, PanzerGrenadierAngreifen playing it pretty fast and loose with this squad. He is going to go, has to fall back through the arc of a Maxim here. Would be unlucky to lose these Volks. Nah, he's not going to lose these Volks. Cool. So anyway, yeah, Steel Division Normandy 44. A game that I'm definitely looking at casting. Do let me know if you have any thoughts, opinions, or whatever about this game. But I've got some sick replays that somebody's been very kind to send me. I actually can't remember their name, so no shout out right now. But if I do go ahead and cast those, then you will get the credit, good sir, for sure. So I've got some pretty cool replays that I can cast of that game. And I don't know, I just think it's a really great RTS. I've always been a fan of Eugen. From Ruse through the War Game series up until, you know, their most recent offering, Steel Division, and they are a solid outfit. They certainly know how to craft a damn fine RTS, and they've got a pretty unique take on the genre as well. So their games have a very idiosyncratic feel to them. But if you like their flavour of RTS, and I for one certainly do, then they are very, very enjoyable games. And of course, the most recent one, Steel Division, is a World War II themed one, which is also, of course, also very dear to my heart, because, you know, we already know all of the units. Like when somebody says a Tiger tank, if you're into World War II RTS, or if you're even into sort of World War II or have much knowledge of the history of World War II, you probably have a good idea of what a Tiger tank is. So I find that the World War II setting is quite nice for an RTS because it gives a lot of players a little bit of general knowledge about all of the units. Whereas if you introduce someone to, I don't know, for example, StarCraft 2, then that kind of level of intuitive knowledge about the units isn't there. You know, you don't really know. There is no Sherman tank in StarCraft 2. There's a Hydralisk, and unless you actually already know what a Hydralisk is, for example, then you don't really know anything about a Hydralisk or how it might act in the game. Anyway, I feel like this is a bit of a diversion, and I'll shortly turn my attention back to the game. But for now, just know, I would like to cast some Steel Division, so I'll be looking to do that, I would have thought, in the near future. As and when I feel like it, I suppose. Anyway, these two geezers have been fighting it out for our entertainment, and I have been pretty much ignoring them. So I'm going to turn my attention back to the game right now. Looks like Brosras going to be opening up with the support weapon Campanile here. Not going for the rifle command, which I have been seeing quite a lot recently. Although I should point out, I haven't really been casting for this last month or so, so I definitely don't have the best knowledge of the meta in this game at the moment. But it looks like he's going for some good old Maxim spam. Now remember, Maxims have had their arc changed, they've had their setup and teardown times changed. If you haven't played Company of Heroes 2 in the last couple of months or whatever, then the Maxim is not the unit it used to be, but still a very potent machine gun, as you can see here. Still putting down a lot of pain here for Angreifen. Pardon me. And if I crack the tack here, we can see the story, the Soviet player Brosras here pushing right up on this map, which is of course Minsk Pocket, not sure if I mentioned that. Pushing right up, getting some good map control. Looks like he has one Maxim in each sort of lane of this map, if you like. I always think this map's divided into lanes. You've got your sort of leftmost lane here, then there's the mid lane, and then you've got your rightmost lane down here. A little bit like the sort of Dota 2 map in a way. So anyway, yeah, he's got one MG pushing each of these lanes, a couple of conscript squads on support. So far, I've got to say, like what I see here from Brosras, his commander pick still open to him, but let's take a look at the roster here. Looks like he's got, what is this, counterattack tactics? Yep. A good all-rounder, and for Mother Russia is now actually pretty cool instead of being kind of terrible. What else have we got here? We've got mechanized support tactics. Oh, of course, that's... actually, that's probably going to be the pick on this map if the game goes late. The ISU-152 always has been a very potent unit on this map, and is very, very, very difficult to answer, and is pretty much effective against all targets if well supported and microed correctly. So I would expect to see Brosras attempt to maneuver the game into a position where he can safely take that commander and deploy the powerful assault gun, the powerful Soviet assault gun onto the field. Ooh, a possibility of a squad wipe coming down here for Angreifen. Looks like he's not going to be lucky enough to pick that one up. It would have been a very lucky squad wipe if he'd have got it, but you know, got to play for these things. And so the final commander on the roster here, Armoured Assault Tactics. So Radio Intercept, T-3485, Vehicle Crew, IL-2 Stomach Attacks, and the IS-2 Heavy Tank. Interesting stuff there. Looks like a light gun here coming out for Angreifen. That does of course mean that he has gone for the battle group at HQ. That is deployed at his fallback point in his main base. Medics are already out on that. So that's going to be the tech route here that Angreifen's going to choose here to navigate through the early game. Now he's at quite a score deficit. Well, sorry, he's at a score deficit. It's actually not too bad. 465 he finds himself at under the 481 of the Soviet player. But, you know, he's under a double cap here, soon to be triple cap. So he's going to have to play quite conservatively here if he's going to move into the mid-game with any kind of real, you know, if he wants to stay close in the tickets, so let's put it that way, as we move into the mid-game. Zisgun coming out here pretty early here for the Soviet player. I mean, that is an early Zisgun. I don't think that Brosras has scouted the... Okay, so Brosras has not scouted the battle group at HQ. So I guess you buy a Zisgun so that you don't die to a Luke's. This is a safety Zisgun. That's fair enough, but it does pretty much represent a dead investment at this stage in the game. No real good targets for the Zisgun out there. I mean, yeah, it can chip away at infantry squads, and yeah, it has an indirect fire mode that can, hypothetically, counter an MG34 or possibly a light gun even if you could get the Zis into range. But that Zisgun kind of at the moment, more or less, sort of a paperweight at this point, a liability of sorts for the Soviet player. We'll have to see what he actually gets done with it, but yeah, I mean, it's just getting harassed here. If Angreifen puts away the metal detector on these Storm Pioneers, he could actually inflict some pretty serious damage onto this Zisgun, but it looks like for now he's just content to chase the AT gun away. Goodness me, that score gap now opening up considerably. 4-2-3 for the Axis player, under 481 here for Brosras. Angreifen finding himself in a bit of a sticky situation here. His composition fairly middling, if I'm honest. I mean, 4 squads of Volksgrenadiers, the Storm Pioneers that you start with, a Rakettenwerfer, and the light gun, which, by the way, did get a little bit crept up on here by some conscripts. Looks like Volksgrenadiers with the STGs. Gonna chase those guys away for now. Yeah, Angreifen here in a bit of an awkward position. Finally, some Volksgrenadiers are going to make their way over to West Cap here, to the West VP, and that's going to help here with the ticket situation, with the victory point situation. Tanker V Battalion Command is up for the Soviet player, and we've got a T-70 going to come onto the field here in the next few seconds. And there's one Raketenwerfer out on the field. Now, where is that thing at the moment? In mid at the moment for Angreifen. So that's where the AT is. Well, these Volks are just going to trade as best they can and then have to GTFO here. Actually, no, I take that back. An additional squad of Volks going to move in from the north here in the SDGs, proving their worth. Soviet squad's getting forced back, and actually Angreifen here making some good ground in mid. And he stands to grab the middle VP here, which will, of course, stop him from bleeding out on tickets. So a savvy move here from Angreifen, and nice to see. Also has units fanning out into the north of the map. A Maxim in a building, though, is going to put paid to these Volksgrenadiers, one has to think. Light gun actually attempting to counter is quite nice here. He's actually hitting the wrong building there. That's a touch awkward. That is a light barrage into the wrong building there. I can only guess that the MG was in this building and then moved itself into this other building here. That's probably what's happened there. T-70 going to come cruising up on into town, and that will force these Volks to retreat or die. Meanwhile, we've got another conflict going on here in mid. Volksgrenadiers, Kettenwerfer, going to get pushed back by the next Soviet wave. Pushing in south as well with a squad of engineers, setting down some TM-35 mines here as Brosras. And looking pretty savvy here as Brosras, I got to say. For a player I'm sure I've cast before but can't remember anything about, he's definitely proving himself to be a competent, capable Soviet operator. And that's what we want to see. We want to see nice games. We want to see cool players taking each other on. So that's pretty sweet. No sign of a second Vermac Schlepper. Oh, sorry, I take that back. No. It's coming out onto the field now. I was going to say, feels like around about the time when you'd expect the OKW player to make another tech choice here, and we're going to see what it's going to be. He has the fuel here for the Schwerpanzer HQ, and based on his commander pick, you have to think it's probably going to be the Schwerpanzer HQ. I wouldn't hate Obersoldaten on this board. He can also make a lot of use out of either Panzer IV or the Panther. Or indeed the Jagdpanzer, actually. You know, those are all probably going to be fine choices. This is actually, I reckon, a pretty good Jagdpanzer map. Any map that's quite linear and difficult for armor to flank is always going to be good for a Jagdpanzer. And this is a pretty, you know, top left to bottom right, linear feeling map. Kettenwerfer here, by the way, getting a nice ambush here on the T-70, forcing the light tank back. Faust is going to connect here, so this T-70 now stricken. Opportunity for the Kettenwerfer to push forward. He needs to disable camo so it can move a little faster. Okay, now he's not going to be able to catch that T-70, but forces it out of circulation for a while, and that is going to do pretty nicely for him here. My god, and you can just hear the sound of Maxims hooting in from every angle right now, firing at units in the south, firing at units in mid, and Angreifen is having a really hard time getting any presence out on the map. Look at the mini-map down here. Soviet player here, Brosras, is pushing right up, still has the VP advantage here with 2-1 on the victory points, and this is looking pretty dire. And this light gun, I mean, geez, they're still just kind of a bit of a meh unit. Only 2 kills, half a level of veterancy, despite the fact that there have been 3 Maxims for it to, you know, be firing at. Just gets itself a couple more kills there, but still, hardly a very impactful, I mean, hardly very much impact for a 330. Is it still 330 manpower to buy the light gun? Oh my god. Is it still 9 unit cap? Jesus. I just think that the light gun's just a terrible indirect fire unit. I mean, he's had this thing like since the early stages of the game, and it's provided so little value. It's so inefficient, and I don't blame him for having bought one. I mean, his opponent's opened pretty Maxim heavy here. I know, if you were playing as Wehrmacht, then, you know, a GR34 mortar would have done amazingly under these circumstances. But because it's a light gun, it is literally very hit and miss, and tends to miss more often than hit, and it has a slow rate of fire, and it's just really cumbersome, and it vets up really slowly. And I still think the light gun is terrible, and I'm not going to ever stop complaining about it until they fix it, because I really wish it was good. But I will stop talking about it now. So anyway, looks like C-34 gets a little bit ambitious here, comes forward into the teeth of a couple of Kettenwerfers. Will get out of there on pixels of health here. Engineers transitioning across here from the west to help repair the light tank here. Let's just check the tech here for the Soviet player. So no sign of the mechanized armor Campanile. Is that what it's called? You know, the tier 4 building. Good god, it's been a while since I cast Company of Heroes. You'll have to bear with me, dear viewers, as I forget the names of everything and the costs of all the units and everything like that. Anyway, Schwerpanzer HQ, as I suspected, does come down in a reasonable location. This will at least cover the fuel point and make it hard for the Soviet player to encroach too far into the Axis half of the map. Angreifen at the moment finds himself at 353, under the 475 of Brosras, so a bit of a score deficit here, and 123 tickets. Not too bad here as we approach the 15-minute mark, all things considered. Brosras, of course, still with his commander pick open to him, and probably still at the back of his mind, working towards taking the mechanized support tactics here. He probably wants that ISU 152 as we have a moment of quiet here. Both players maneuvering their units, repairing, reinforcing, rearming, and deploying ahead of the next wave of combat. Couple of squads of conscripts here going to initiate contact in the middle of the map, and the Maxim also going to make contact. Looks like Angreifen sending a couple of squads of Volks over here into the west to displace this Maxim, which has got him under a triple cap once again. Angreifen having a rough game of it here. And I feel like he's doing okay. He's just kind of been unable to get any real traction, any real momentum in this game, kind of spinning his wheels a little bit here. I mean, he has all the ingredients, but he has a very, let's say, bland army composition here. Not much spice to it, nothing he can really make moves with. You know, this is all stuff that Soviet players will be super used to playing around. I mean, it's pretty hard to get squad wipes with this composition you see in the top left. It's not a particularly dangerous composition for your opponent if it is, you know, a capable, stalwart sort of defensive style here from Angreifen. You know, these are fine units, but they're just not very pokey, is what I mean. So I would like to see Angreifen get something like Obersoldaten to help counter these infantry. Actually, I just think Obersoldaten would be a pretty sweet pick right now. Combined with the light gun, the Volk support, it'd be pretty cool. T7 here going to get snared again. That's going to force it out of circulation once again. And looks like oh, here it is. So the mechanized armor Campanier has now finished for Brosras. He must have started building that just after I finished checking his tech last time. And we've got a T-34-85 coming. Brosras has indeed elected to choose a commander. It is going to be the armored, Armored Assault Tactics commander. And a T-34-85 is a pretty damn intimidating piece right now for Angreifen to have to deal with. He's under a lot of pressure right now. He needs to claim VPs. He desperately needs to grab some of these victory points on the map. He's under pressure from a T-70 that he has had difficulty in coming to grips with. And now there's a T-34-85 rolling out onto the field. And this could be a swift exit to this game. It all depends on how this attack goes. If the Soviet player is able to push through and get the Zis gun in range of this Schwerpanzer HQ and or the T-34-85, I think this game falls apart. I mean, if Angreifen loses this tech building, it's pretty much GG as far as I can tell. It would just be a horrible situation. I mean, it's not GG, but it would make the game so horribly hard to come back in for him. We'll have to see. Angreifen's up to 127 fuel right now, so let's see. He must be nearly at Jagdpanzer fuel. Yeah, 135 for the Jagdpanzer. So the question before him now is, do you buy the Jagdpanzer now, or do you wait for a Panzer IV, or do you wait for a Panther? I actually really like the Jagdpanzer. As I already said, I think this is a reasonably good map for it. But I mean, it doesn't deal with all the other problems that he has to face here. Okay, he's going to go for the Jagdpanzer. I don't blame him. I would have gone for the Jagdpanzer too. And this will help him stabilize, and it will give him a measure of control over this location here, because he can park the Jagdpanzer here, right? And that pretty much zones out enemy arm. Let me use the tactical map to explain this. So if he parks the Jagdpanzer like here-ish, like anywhere in this middle lane, basically, that pretty much forces the Soviet armor like to give it a ton of respect, really. Then if he puts the Rakettenwerfers on each flank with enough scouting infantry, he shouldn't get taken off guard by a flanking T-34-85 coming at his Jagdpanzer. That enables him to exert like a reasonable amount of influence and control over this middle point, and he should be able to start stabilizing on VPs, so I don't mind the Jagdpanzer 4 pick. Okay, he cancels it and goes for a Panzer 4, and I mean, I almost like this better, but I don't really like this better. Okay, let me explain. If this was a T-34-76, I would like this better. It's a T-34-85, though, and there's a Zis gun on the field, and conscripts with AT grenades. Okay, sorry, AT grenades have not been researched. Wow. But conscripts who could have AT grenades, and Panzer IVs are so fragile. Like, you can lose a Panzer IV in the blink of an eye. Like, it doesn't take much to go wrong for a Panzer IV to die. Whereas, because of the way you play a Jagdpanzer, they tend to be a lot harder to take out. You know, they tend to lurk a little further back. They don't tend to get so aggressive against you know, Soviet infantry and so forth. I just think that this Panzer IV could be a bad choice here. It's also more expensive in terms of fuel, 150, 15 more fuel. Meanwhile, Brosras here is going for a Katusha, which is just all kinds of ugly. If that Katusha is allowed to get more than a couple of barrages off in this game, Angreifen's going to find himself in a horrible position once again. Speaking of in a horrible position, I'll just crack the tack once more. Angreifen at the moment like at 187 under, how many tickets was it? 475 here. So, you know, this triple cap is just being terrible. Is he even capping this point? Okay, he is capping this point, good. Yeah, so Angreifen at the moment far behind on VPs and just in a really difficult position. And I feel Overcommand players often find themselves in this situation, which is why I was surprised to see Angreifen play this really vanilla style. You know, I'm just not sure that you can play this Volksgrenadier, Rakettenwerfery, Storm Pioneery, light gunny style these days. I think Soviet players, with the changes to Penal Battalion, with the changes to Maxims, with the changes, you know, just making a lot of their units pretty viable and awesome, I think you have to have a pretty lucky game to make this composition work. Anyway, we've got a tank battle here as the Panzer IV going to show down against the T-34. Katusha also hailing in shots against these Rakettenwerfers. Angreifen not going to retreat them though. He says screw that. The Rakettenwerfers are going to stay put and they will actually help out in this fight. The T-34-85 getting turbo aggressive here, going to come forwards. Wow, how did those Rakettenwerfers not fire? I mean, I know that they were a little bit thinly suppressed, but damn. You would have thought for sure they would have chipped in a rocket there, but they did not. And now, indirect fire coming down off the Zis gun will force these AT guns to reposition. Angreifen, god damn, he plays them so risky though. Also playing these Volksgrenadiers risky, trying to come forward here for a Panzerfaust onto this T-34. Surely you have to fall these guys back, Angreifen. Oh no, I mean that was a voluntary sacrifice to try and get a snare on the T-34-85. A risk he thought he had to take, and you know, it's not going to pay off. Sad times there. Finally, a Rakettenwerfer hit comes through. The Panzer IV gets another penetrating hit. That will force the T-34-85 to be a little bit scarce here, desperately kiting back. Oh, but this is a trap. You can't chase with the Panzer IV. There's a Zis gun here in your side armor, so he will get the Panzer IV back. After getting the KO blow on the T-34-85, Angreifen here manages to take out the Soviet medium whilst keeping his own alive. So a big swing there, a big moment for him there. But I think even with that, you know, he lost 2 Rakettenwerfers and a squad of Volksgrenadiers, and the Panzer IV is forced back to repair on lowish health, on 25% or so health. So that means Angreifen isn't really going to be able to put together a fight for the next minute or two in this game, at least. And time is not something he has on his hands. He's under a double cap. And what's this we've got coming in? The IL-2 Sturmovik is just going to come in and start dackering the hell out of everything here. And I think this is just game-ending damage that we're seeing Brosras inflict here against PanzerGrenadier Angreifen. I'm racking my brains and I don't see a series of plays that can get him back in this game now. I mean, he did get the T-34-85, and that's pretty cool. But you know what? The Soviet player's income is decent. T-34-85s are not super expensive, and they are pretty goddamn good. Here comes an Ura of conscripts to try and grab this Rakettenwerfer. Ugh. Actually, they're just going to get gunned down by PanzerGrenadiers, yeah. Brosras did not know that those PanzerGrenadiers were there. I think if he did, he may not have grabbed that AT gun. But, you know, sometimes you've got to take risks, and if he'd have managed to salvage that, that would have been pretty cool. Anyway, that's the sound of the Katushka firing another barrage here. Looks like it's going to be aiming for, and finds the Panzer IV. Getting a little bit more damage onto that thing. Going to mean that it spends even longer having to repair. Meanwhile, is this a Pak 43? No, sorry, it's a Lef 18. Right, a Lef 18 getting built here? That seems like a hella aggressive position for a Lef 18. I would have thought like here maybe. My god. Angreifen is fearless, isn't he? I just don't know that this is a very good spending of manpower, if I'm honest. I mean, it might be useful, but does he really... You see, the thing about a Lef 18, right, is it's one of those units that pays for itself quite slowly over time. A Lef 18 is an investment that says, I want this game to go on for a while so that I can have this gun sitting at the back throwing giant explosives at you for quite a long time so it can pay for itself. And looking at this game, looking at the force roster in the top left, looking at the force roster in the top right, taking into account the map, and most importantly the fact that it's 120 tickets for Angreifen under 475, I just don't think there's the time left in the game for this Lef 18 to be a good investment. I think Obersoldaten would have been a smarter choice. Obersoldaten and another Rakettenwerfer look good to me. I don't know. I just don't like this Lef 18, if I'm honest. So it's ready. He needs to take a barrage with it, like, right now, if it's going to have any difference in this game. He needs to just have this thing constant firing. Is Angreifen out of this game? I mean, he's not out quite yet. There is a glimmer of hope. This is not absolutely fruitless for him. But this is going to be a tough one for sure. You can see on the minimap, though, if he could just task a single unit with running up and capping up in the north. Are there any mines up here for the Soviet player? I can't see any mines. So a squad of Volksgrenadiers could actually push the line quite far, or he could even just bypass all these resource points and just go and grab that VP, which he really does need to do. And I'm kind of amazed actually to see Angreifen pick this commander on this map as well. I'm not necessarily saying it's a bad pick on this map, but it's not one of my favourites on this map. I usually go for Luftwaffe Ground Forces Doctrine on this, just because that way you get Fallschirmjäger, and you can of course deploy them out of this building here, which is just really, really cool. Because that way you can just constantly harass their VP. So, not to mention all of the other relevant, useful abilities that that commander brings to the table as well. So anyway, Volksgrenadiers here are going to get fed into a meat grinder, T-70 and a Sturmovik, more than happy to take advantage of those poor chaps, and they will be sent packing here. Angreifen desperately needs to capture this middle VP. Takes a hit there from a Zis gun. Needs to get the Panzer IV back a little there. And this is going to be a Pak 43 getting built here. Okay, I'm beginning to see how Angreifen is establishing himself here. Again, this position for the Pak 43 is awkward because these trees here are a big line of sight blocker. So he can either aim it this way or he can aim it this way. But whichever way he aims it, if a tank drives the other way, like if it's aiming the way that the Ark is now and a T-3485 drives up here, that is bad news times. That is bad times for that. Whoa, why is this Panzer IV got its rear armor just hanging out here for a Rakettenwerfer to start shooting? I mean, it doesn't make much difference for a Rakettenwerfer, I suppose, but you never want to have your tank driving arse first into the enemy lines. Panzer IV here getting very flustered. Should be able to escape, though. Wow, that was a close run thing. Left 18 beginning to chip in, and boom! The Pak 43 chalks itself a first kill. Oh, that was a brutal opening shot there. Getting itself a ton of veterancy, already going to level 1 veterancy, so it already has the target weak point ability. Katusha, oh yeah! Mate, your opponent already has a Katusha and you're building static emplacements. Help me understand this. Somebody in the comments. Why would you do this? Amazingly, that Katusha doing not very much damage to the Pak 43 there. I think Angreifen getting a touch lucky with the distribution on the spread there of those rockets. And oh no, Brosras gonna sneak through some conscripts here to harass the top left. Now there are some Volks in the hood who should be able to push these conscripts back, but Brosras here playing a pretty good game here. And it's, I gotta say, it's nice to see. It's always nice to see a well-executed game, and that is what we're seeing here from Brosras. He has lost precious few units. Look at the amount of veterancy he has on these Maxims. Those are the 3 Maxims he bought way early on in the game. Looking pretty good here. Zis gun with indirect fire, going to put down some more pressure on this thing. Left 18 here, about ready for another barrage. He probably wants to put that down about here to cover an advance to take the middle VP. The Volksgrenadiers in top left did indeed manage to sweep out those conscripts, so they're going to push forwards here, having defended the VP, and that was crucial, because otherwise Angreifen for sure would have lost the game, I think. If this VP ever turns red, ever again this game, I think Angreifen loses. Like, absolutely loses. So, uh-oh, that's a demo charge. Crawl towards the demo charge! Hans! We've got to crawl towards the demo charge! These Volksgrenadiers, I mean, really. There they go. There they go. Oh no, now there's an IF-2 on the field. The Pak 43 gets nuked, and that, my friends, is how an OKW player dies. And, wow. It's hard to pinpoint exactly where this game went wrong for Angreifen. I mean, I'm thinking back. I think he just went for too boring or too bland of an opener. I mean, Volksgrenadiers, light guns and Rakettenwerfers with a squad of Storm Pioneers just ain't going to cause your average good Soviet player that much hassle, are they? I mean, you need a Panzer II. You need, like, you know, a call-in spicy unit like Panzer Fusiliers or Fallschirmjäger, or you need something. You need something. Also, I still don't think... I just don't rate this commander on this map. I don't really like it. And Angreifen going to choose this moment to GG out of the game. So, yeah, a reasonably well-fought game, I think, for him. But Brosras here definitely able to get the upper hand. Establishes early field control with a triple Maxim push, 1 in each lane, if you like, in inverted commas, on this map. And was able to build on that solid advantage he had in the early game to convert it into a pretty handy win here. 475 tickets still in the pocket. Tells the story of this game. Angreifen, seldom if ever, able to push into the Soviet half of the map. And that is going to cause him to die in this game here. Like, like I say, I think the main reason he died is just that the build was too bland, just not enough spice to it. Volksgrenadiers are fine units. Rakettenwerfers are fine units. Light guns are awful units. You put the three together and you have a really kind of meh kind of composition. And I mean, when Soviet players have access to the cool units and stuff that they do, I just don't think that composition is ever going to stand you in particularly good stead. I mean, it's not an awful composition, and that's why Angreifen didn't just die straight away in the early game. But I don't think it's the kind of composition that has like the explosive. It just doesn't have. What am I trying to say? It doesn't have like the velocity. It doesn't have like the oomph. It doesn't have any spice. It doesn't allow you to make plays very well. It doesn't really allow you to reach out and touch the Soviet player in any meaningful way. And yeah. And then he was forced into a really hard tech choice because he had the Schwerpanzer HQ, and it was either Jagdpanzer or Panzer IV. I think that the Jagdpanzer was actually still the right choice there, although I can understand cancelling and going for the Panzer IV. But I still think the Jagdpanzer was the right choice there. And the Panzer IV was like okay-ish, but mostly kind of underwhelming, mostly kind of kept at bay by a Zis gun and a T-34-85. And I think a Jagdpanzer IV, because you can leave that a bit further back, it's a much more defensible unit, and it screens out the enemy armor a lot better. And when you know your opponent has gone for a commander who gives you the T-34-85, that Jagdpanzer IV becomes even more appealing because you know he's going to be following it up with other armor-centric options. In this case, an IS-2 heavy tank. So anyway, that's my take on this game. So I guess that concludes this video. Thank you very much for watching. Magpie 842. I will be momentarily signing out. Yeah, just I gotta say, it's good to be back. It's nice to be back in casting. It's been a while. Has been a while. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts are on Steel Division, because I'd love to cast some. So I think I might just go and do some of that sometime soon. But yeah, thanks very much for watching. And this for now is Magpie 842 signing out.